So from the last video, that's kind of end of part one, where I've let you sort of write your own pages using very basic tags. This part I really want to start using the form. So the form is quite interesting because it puts buttons on there and allows you to interact with the web page. You've seen it before, you've used it before, but I want to do it in a very basic way. We'll get to styling things up later, so I'm not going to go into CSS styles just at the moment. I'm going to introduce you to the form, but to do that I've really got to explain something called PHP, which is a language like Python, and it's a web language. It's used all the time and it is only available on a server. So I've not been able to teach or use it before because we haven't had a server. Now we have one. So I'm going to start creating some PHP stuff. So we hop over to our old page. I'm going to choose File and New. And I'm going to create a PHP page. Now, a PHP page, it starts with an angled tag, then a question mark, and then the language name at the end. And I'm actually going to save this straight away so that we can get into the colours. So if I choose File and Save As, now I'm going to call this index.php. And I know that I've already got one called index, and you're not supposed to have two files with the same name. However, because the extension is different, this says it's hypertext markup language, and this one says it's PHP, which is, I can't remember, but it's a processing language. I can have it. So if I click Save, then we get the colours that I'm looking for. So PHP begins with that tag and it ends with a question mark and that tag. Now this is a very specific language. There are more. There's one called ASP, Active Server Pages, which is Microsoft's version of this, and it's very, very similar. So if you learn this, you should be able to sort of migrate your way over to that one pretty quickly. But this is a language, and I'm going to show you what it does basically. So if you were in Python, you'd use the word print, but because we're in PHP, I need to use the word echo. So it echoes something out to the screen, and really this language is there to write or create web pages on the fly. That is, as it goes, and we need to know this so that we can handle the buttons on a form. So if we submit something, it needs to go to a page which can process it. That's what one of the P stands for, processing, and give us an answer. So I'm going to echo something, and it needs open and close brackets, and every line, every statement in PHP needs to end with a semicolon. Now I'm not like Python. There's no indentation at all. It's just down to you how you separate your statements out to make it look good. But the indentation is not important. So what do I want to write in this one? So between a pair of quotes, I am going to write this is a served up page. Then I'm going to save it. Now this is kind of the important part. I've got two index files now. So let's go back to my web. I've got two index files now. One of them is the home page for the website. The other one isn't. And it really depends on the web server. It is set up to say, look to see if you've got a PHP file. That will be a home page. If it isn't, it'll be HTML file. And you can change them. So you can change the order. So at the moment, I don't know which order this one's going to be. But if I refresh this without giving a file name here, I'm either going to get my first web page, or I'm going to get that text that I've just written. This is a served up page. So there's a precedence on which index loads into the browser if we don't give a file name. So reload, and there you go. It looks for a PHP file first. If it can't find a PHP file, then it'll load up a HTML file. Now the only way that I can get, if I've got a PHP file in my folder, the only way I can get this one back on the screen to look at it is by actually typing the name now, index.html, and there I get my web page. Now what I want you to notice is there's no colour on this one. It was blue. I don't think I've taken that out. I've got a feeling that, oh no, I did take it out. I took it out of the body. But HTML5, which Chrome supports, does not support that background colour, so maybe it will go missing. This version of Chrome seems to still support it, so maybe this one doesn't fully work with HTML5. We'll find that out later. So without this on my path, if I just delete that and press enter, it says this is a served up page. Now this is being served. Notice we can't see the PHP start or the end, and it's also going to work differently if I double click on the file in here. So this is now client side. If I double click on any one of these, it's going to bypass the server. It's not going to go to the server, and it's going to show me the file in the web browser. Now if I double click on index.html, it should open up in a browser eventually. Not sure where that's gone. I think my computer's having a bit of a moment. There we go. That was the page that loaded up, and it's telling me the file path here. So this isn't being served. This is as a result of me double clicking on the file in the browser, in the file manager window. If I do the same with index.php, it's going to be a little bit different to the one that was served up. And there's the first difference. It doesn't know what to open it up with. So maybe we can select Chrome. Can't even find. There we go, Google. Let's see if we've got Google Chrome. There we go. So I'm choosing to open this up in Google Chrome, and that's what we get. Again, the file path here tells me that it's not being served. It's just the file, and instead of it giving me this is a served up page, it actually gives me all the code that I typed. So that's interesting. Another thing about this being a served up page is if we take a look in the if we inspect the element, so I'm going to inspect the element of this one if I can. There we go. So if I open up the body, this is what the actual code that was opened up in the file. Notice some of these things I didn't actually type in. It's given them to me. But if I go over to this version and take a look, it actually doesn't give me anything. It just says this is a served up page between the body and the end body. There's no further things I can open up. Again, go in here, it's put pre-style equals word, and it's actually got my PHP tags here, my PHP tag there, echo, and then the end PHP tag there. So what's happening is that when I use the server looks at what my code is, sees that it's a PHP file, and then strips out everything and just gives me a web page with this is a served up page. Doesn't even put echo on the front of it. Just says this is a served up page. So it processes the information that's in the file, before it delivers it. So that really is the difference between a web server or a server and a client. So this is client side, where it does nothing with the file. It just displays whatever was in the file. It doesn't understand it, doesn't know it's got to do anything with it. This is a server-side script where it's taken the information and it's processed it. And we're going to make a lot of that when we actually play around with buttons and forms on our web page. So that's quite heavy and a lot to take on board. But hopefully through a little bit of practice it will become clear to you what's happening.